Yo, 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 what is up, everyone? It's Friday night. You're riding with the Roads crew. It is I, Token, beacon of hope and liberty in the state of Nebraska, and I am joined by my gun-loving maniac, Destin Hobbs. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Just another Friday night.
That's another Friday night. We're just hanging out with each other, doing our thing, talking a little bit of liberty. We both got drinks in hand. Time to get a little bit tipsy. And you know what? Maybe inappropriately touch some people. What do you think?
It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, the patron saint of inappropriate touching has been in the news this week, my friend, and it's kind of funny. And it's not kind of funny. It's pretty hilarious. What's that the news and the Democrats have just now realized that their second in command for 8 years is a creepy weirdo who likes to inappropriately touch people. I don't know, man. This isn't news to me. I always knew that Joe Biden was a creepy weirdo who touches people inappropriately, but apparently nobody else knew. We were the only ones.
No, well, I saw a thing pop up that apparently it's been kind of one of these low-key points of contention amongst both the right and the left for quite a few years. I know Jon Stewart did something way back in like 2015 over Joe Biden being Joe Biden, and there's been numerous articles written about how he's kind of creepy and weird, but they always try and pass it off as, oh, that's just Joe being Joe. You know, trying to make it seem like he's just your that weird relative at the family get-togethers that is, you know, your creepy uncle. He's kind of weird, but you still love him because he's your family and he's, you know, got a lot of the same ideas that you do. But now that we've got the woke wing of Democrat Party putting their left foot forward, so to speak. We got all of these strong, powerful whammon and whammon of color running for office. We can't have another old white man take the presidential nomination. So I think this is just a convenient out for them to kind of push him to the side.
Well, see, that's the thing about it. I mean, because this has never been a secret. It's not like people didn't know that Joe Biden likes to stick his face in people's hair and likes to stroke their cheeks and grab kids around the midriff. This isn't news. These videos have been out for years, dude. I was seeing these videos years and years ago of creepy Uncle Joe, like, walking up behind some woman and sticking his face in her hair. This isn't new. There's nothing new about any of this. But you're right. The only reason that there's anybody talking about this in any serious way on the left is because now Joe Biden, he is the biggest threat to the radical progressive left right now. And this is crazy for me to think because Joe Biden is not really a moderate.
No.
Comparatively, though, he's moderate when you compare him to the Elizabeth Warrens and the Bernie Sanders and the Kamala Harrises and Cory Bookers of the world. You know, all of these progressive leftists, compared to them, he is a moderate, even though he's not really a moderate in any real sense of the word. He's a leftist himself. He's just not a socialist leftist. But because
his personal politics are pretty far left, yet like you just said. But he's also a politician and a statesman, and he recognizes the value of compromise. And unfortunately for the progressive left, compromise is no longer on the table. It's their way or the highway. So creepy Uncle Joe's got to go.
I mean, that's essentially what it is. Because for all these years, he was on team left. He was one of their leaders. You know, he was their guy on their team. So they covered for him, you know? They'd call this touching endearing or folky or just, oh, that's just Uncle Joe. He's Yeah, it's kind of weird, but you know what? It's nothing to make a big deal out of. But now the Democratic Party has shifted so far to the left, they left him behind. He's that old man moderate that they don't want him hanging out anymore. They certainly don't want him as their presidential nominee. So now all this inappropriate touching has gone from something to excuse away to something to bash him with. You know what I mean? It's a weapon now. It's a weapon in the hands of the hardcore progressive left to use against Joe Biden, and they're going to use it as much as they can. And I've already seen a lot of people be like, "Oh, this is the right. The right's doing this to him." Like, no, that's absurd. This isn't right.
The first major publication to say anything about Joe Biden's creepy weirdness was that bastion of right-wing ideology, the Washington Post. So, yeah, this isn't coming from the right. The right has been saying things about Joe Biden's creepy, touchy-feely mannerisms for a long, long time. And like you said, the left has just been like, oh, he's an old man. He comes from a different time and blah, blah, blah. But now that it's convenient to brush somebody who may reach across the aisle and compromise if he was in the White House, if opposition was strong and vocal enough, we can't have that. We got to have a radical who will just kick us down the road, that left-hand path, as far as they can possibly go. Any compromise, any moderation at all is anathema to these people's ideology.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Carl Hill says, I don't see any creepy libertarians yet. We would throw them under the bus right away. I don't know, man. The creepertarians are a thing. They exist. You just need to go to a large gathering of libertarians, and you'll probably see plenty of them.
Just go
hang out with some audacious caucus folks, and you'll see plenty of creepertarians in there.
Or you could just go to like the national convention or whatever and get up on a chair and be like, I think that the age of consent is an ethical law, and then watch them come out of the woodwork if you want to see some creepy people.
Oh my God. That's the worst. Freaking one of them is running for president too. We don't know if it's the 13-year-old. There's a lot of people out there that know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say he who shall not be named will not be named. You want to talk about a creep. Joe Biden's creepy, but that guy, he's even creepier. Don't let him watch your kids.
Yeah, definitely. He probably won't have sex with them. Probably
wouldn't. But you know what? Why take any chances? But, I mean, here's the thing about Crazy Uncle Joe. He came out and he made a video addressing this issue. And he said, you know what? The social standards are changing. Things are moving away from me. I understand that things are different now, and I will try to be better and whatnot. But the thing that I'm surprised about is he hasn't actually apologized for it. And you would expect that from the way that current outrage culture is going. Like when you do anything even remotely bad, you're supposed to immediately jump on the sword and pray for mercy, which is never forthcoming.
No.
That's the thing about it. And people, I'll get into this in a second, but people apologies today, they don't work anymore.
Nope.
They don't. So politicians are wise not to even bother with them. You know what I mean? And if people like to blame Donald Trump for this, and in a way he kind of exasperated the issue, but it's not, he didn't create this. Donald Trump is a symptom of the disease. He's not the disease itself. The disease was the clickbait, got you, hypersensitive PC culture that's been arising in this country years before Donald Trump entered politics. Donald Trump is the blowback to social justice culture. That's what he is. If social justice culture had never existed, Donald Trump would have never been president. But
Nope.
See, now Donald Trump had laid down the groundwork for this anti-contrition type of politician. Because back in the day, a politician could make a heartfelt apology for doing something wrong and be forgiven. You know what I mean? Like people wouldn't. maybe I'm too young to remember people doing this, but I don't seem to remember anybody dragging up stuff from 10, 20, 30 years before and try to bash somebody with it. Like, aha, I got you. You said a bad thing 20 years ago, and now you're going down. No, but if a politician acknowledges that and apologizes for that, they're going down, because what they've essentially done is they've admitted wrongdoing. They're on the wrong side of history, so you just push them aside and bring someone more woke in instead. But the reason Donald Trump got the nomination at all is because he's not that kind of politician. See, like Mitt Romney was that kind of politician. He lost. John McCain was that kind of politician. He lost. And then in the primary season, you had all these other politicians who were just like that. Your Jeb Bushes, your Marco Rubios, people like that running for president. And here you have Trump, a shameless individual, no shame whatsoever, thinks he's legitimately the best person to ever walk the earth. One of the most arrogant, egotistical guys in the world. And he won. And the reason he won was because of that attitude he brought with him. He wasn't going to back down and apologize for stuff. He was going to beat you over the head with how awesome he thinks he is. And it worked. And politicians in today's world, they're smart to go down that path, because that's the only way they can get away with having any kind of shade in their past.
Right. I think that Biden's bullshit non-apology is a perfect exemplar of that current new wave of politicians who are not going to apologize for things that they've done in their past at all. And I think it's a dangerous thing culturally that we are just kind of expected to allow these people in high places of power to do things and feel no regret about them, and then we're supposed to applaud that sort of oh God, it's an immorality, it's a decadence, it's a bad place to be culturally and morally as a civilization. And it's just another example of us sliding into that, that late stage civilization that people talk about sometimes. But the only other opportunity, or the only other option, is to apologize and then get shark attacked, because that's what these social justice NPCs are doing these days. Is if you do something wrong in your past and you try to make up for it, you try to show that you're legitimately sorry, that is blood in the water to a school of sharks, and they will tear you to pieces. So the only option is to do the Trump approach, which is to be, yeah, I did something wrong, it happened. What are you going to do about it?
Oh, well.
Yeah, you want to fight about it? And that's the only thing that you can do and still come out on top, is to be this shameless individual. Otherwise, you apologize and you get torn to pieces.
No, I almost welcome it, because I've never under any delusion that any of these politicians were ever actually sorry or contrite about anything bad they've done. You think Bush is sorry and contrite about starting the Iraq War? You think Obama is feeling shame over the debacle that happened in Libya under his watch? You think any of these politicians are feeling bad over the people they've murdered or starved to death in foreign countries? No, these people have always been shameless criminals. They've always been that. Just now they're blatant about it. Like every politician has been like Donald Trump. They're just usually a lot better spoken than him. Now, he's not the first arrogant, egotistical maniac to be in the White House. He's the first one to be arrogant and egotistical openly and unapologetically in the White House. At least as far as in modern times, politicians are usually pretty good about hiding that stuff about them, but he's entirely shameless. And it's kind of nice, in a way, to see someone who's just blatantly as arrogant and open about it as him. Is like, all right, Obama was the same way, Bush was the same way, but they hid it. So everyone has these fond memories of them. Trump's just kind of in the open about his douchebaggery. I'm like,
Right,
okay.
right. Right, and in a way, yeah, you're right. It is nice to see some honesty and some transparency in our politicians, but there's like different layers of politically aware that you've got. You got the people that, like you and me, that we know that people like Bush and Obama and Clinton and all the other ones before were full of shit and they had no remorse over what they did. And they were just, fake it till you make it. But then you've got the vast majority of people who sort of look up to politicians and naively think that these are the best that our civilization has to offer, and that's why they got into the positions that they are. And to see, I mean, even if it is fake and full of shit, to see an Obama or a Bush or a Clinton like break down in tears and apologize for something that they did in the past that got a lot of people hurt or killed or starved or broke a country or whatever the debacle is, to see even an insincere apology pulled off in a way that comes across as sincere, that has a broader effect on the culture widely, that I think in the short term now, having that sort of honesty and transparency from somebody like Trump and having it rub off on other politicians, it's
I think your mic just went out. Talking, but I cannot hear you. Yeah, plug your mic back in or something. But now I can see that because it is kind of a gauge on where the rest of the country is. Because not everybody is as cynical about politics as you and I are. Now, I would say that cynicism is completely justified and realistic, but not everybody's as cynical as us. And politicians who at least seem contrite about past mistakes, it's a gauge on what the country expects, of their politicians. Like, this is what a president should be. This is where we should be at, as opposed with Trump. It's like, oh, so we just don't care about even keeping up the appearance anymore. It may just be a surface level appearance, but it's still something. You know what I mean? It's still something, but I don't know, man. It just seems to me that the incentive to like especially for the Republicans trying to play nice and trying to like appeal to the media and be that nice guy politician. It never worked, because no matter what they did, they always got labeled as racists, as homophobes, as bigots, whatnot, and that's never going to change. Where that stuck with Romney or McCain, it bounced right off of Trump because he was unapologetic about literally everything. So what can you do, man? That's where the culture's heading right now. Shamelessness is going to get you elected, while being contrite and falling on your knees and begging for forgiveness, that gets you stuck out in the wilderness. Yeah, I still can't hear you. I don't know what's up, man. I can't hear you right now. You're gone. You're just a face. Uh-oh. It looks like it's just me, fellas. Hobbs has disconnected. Hopefully we'll get him back on in a moment, because I can't do this by myself for too long. Anyway, Creepy Uncle Joe, what do you guys think? Do you think that Joe Biden being creepy with women should disqualify him from running for president? Do you think this is something that is going to prevent him from gaining the Democratic nomination? I don't know. It seems like he's already moving past this. Like, this was a big deal a couple days ago, but Joe Biden's already like, man, that was last week's news. Why are we still dealing with this nonsense? But I don't know, man. I don't know. Joe Biden seems to think that he can move on from this issue. He still hasn't announced officially he's run for president, but it's gonna come. Joe Biden's gonna run for president. I'd be extremely shocked if he didn't. All right, so when Joe Biden enters the field, that's the thing about it. Him and Beto O'Rourke are the only two people running on the Democratic side that can kind of play off as moderates. That's why they're the targets of the hardcore socialist progressive left right now. Biden especially is representing the old Obama legacy. He's part of that Obama crowd that won election twice. So you think they'd be happy about that, but Obama was not, he was not an open radical progressive. He was, but compared to where the Democratic Party has gone now, Obama might even be described as a moderate. And Joe Biden absolutely could be described as a moderate by that crowd. This is why he is now enemy number one. So what used to just be endearing to Democrats, Joe Biden's weird nuzzling of women and girls, which has always been creepy to people who were not Democrats and were not fans of Obama. It's always been creepy to libertarians and conservatives all over the place. We always thought that was creepy. But it's only now being found creepy by Democrats because they can use it as ammunition. They can use it now as ammunition against him to stop him from gaining the nomination. Okay, so that's enough about crazy Uncle Joe Biden. Let's talk about something else for a second. There's also another issue. There's some economic issues. There's some economic news coming out. Donald Trump seems to think he knows how to best run the Federal Reserve System. So Donald Trump is not a big fan of the Federal Reserve, their interest rates, and stopping quantitative easing. Now, this is an article from Politico. It says, President Donald Trump on Friday called for the Federal Reserve to take drastic action to support the U.S. economy about an hour after new data showed strong job numbers and healthy wage growth. This is quoting for Donald Trump. I personally think the Fed should drop rates, Trump told reporters outside the White House. I slowed us down. See, the Federal Reserve has been having interest rates for a very long time. Oh, wait a minute. I think we might have Dustin back.
Do you hear me?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can. We have Hobbs. What is up, my man? What happened? Why'd you disappear on me, dude? I had to carry this all on my own.
I don't know what's going on. I've got to bust out my laptop and update it and do some other stuff. Like right now, I'm trying to do a tablet, and right now I'm on my phone. It's craziness. But anyways, what were you talking about, and where are we at now?
We finished up the Joe Biden stuff. Well, here we got a couple comments to read out first. Here's one for our good friend Andy. Joe is just a touchy-feely guy. He does that crap to 300-pound Marines too. He is at a weird level with it, but not sexual. Yeah, I agree with that. It's not sexual. It's just really, really weird. I wouldn't want Joe Biden touching me like that. No. And if I had a daughter and Joe Biden touched her like that, I'd probably knock him out. Because don't do that. The fact that he does this to kids is really creepy. Don't do that, man.
No, he's done some really.
We had moved on.
Huh? Okay.
We had moved on to the issue of the Federal Reserve, and Call commented, doesn't that mostly help rich people? Yeah, quantitative easing does help rich people the most, because when the Federal Reserve prints money, who gets that money first? It's not you. It's not me. It's rich people. It's people who are well connected with the government get it first. And by the time it trickles down to the rest of us, prices have already gone up to the point where now that money is not helping any of the rest of us. So we're talking about the Donald Trump calling for a rise of interest rates. And he seemed. Here's the funny thing about it. The economy is doing really well right now. It is. We just had about 200,000 jobs added last month. The economy is doing well. Things are going good. But Donald Trump, for some reason, thinks that he still has to call out the Federal Reserve for raising interest rates. And you know me, I'm against the very existence of the Federal Reserve. But I don't think it's a bad thing that interest rates are starting to go up a bit, because perpetually low interest rates, that just leads to speculation. It leads to malinvestment. It leads to massive amounts of personal debt. Because what happens when you lower interest rates to such a huge degree? It de-incentivizes people putting money away in a bank account. Because what's an interest rate? It's the money you're getting back for the money you have in the bank. So when the interest rates are high, it incentivizes people to put money in their bank accounts and collect interest on it. When interest rates are low, it encourages people to throw all their money into the stock market and risk it all. Because they're not getting a return saving that money. The only place they're going to get a return is out in the market. And with inflation the way it is, you have to get a return on that money. You can't just put it away, because by the time you're ready for retirement, that money is going to be inflated out of all its value. So what low interest rates encourage high amounts of speculation, encourage high amounts of malinvestment, and have a perpetually low interest rate is not good. And in a free market system, this wouldn't be happening. In a free market system, interest rates would rise or lower depending on what the market demands. If the market is demanding low interest rates, that's what's going to happen. If it's demanding high interest rates, that's what's going to happen. But having the Federal Reserve just artificially decide what it's going to be is just going to lead to problems, and that's what we're seeing. And it's probably what's going to, if we have another economic downturn, that could very well lead to Donald Trump being defeated in 2020 if that comes before the election.
Right. I don't know if you're familiar with two guys that I used to follow them pretty heavy way back, like maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and then I kind of fell off of them, and then I kind of sort of picked them up. Are you familiar with Peter Schiff and Gerald Celente?
Peter Schiff more than Jared Celente, but yeah, I'm familiar with Peter Schiff.
Yeah, so they're both a couple of economists, and they're saying that from what I've been able to tell, the interest rates have been raised, I think, 9 times in the past couple of years that Trump has been in office, and they were raised 0 times during the Obama administration, and were actually lower during the Obama administration, simply because the economy was doing so poor because of all the regulations and the burdensome taxes on businesses and whatnot. And you're right that higher interest rates encourage putting your money away in savings, because that's what you're going to get money back out of. But lower interest rates encourage spending, because if you put your money away when you've got a low interest rate, you're not going to get hardly anything back. However, if you go out and spend your money, then you're going to get stuff, and that's going to end up driving the market forward. The fact that the Federal Reserve is sort of this artificial finger on the scale of the economy, adjusting interest rates at will, artificially, is it's a detriment to any type of free market economy. However, it is the system that we have, and until it goes away, you have to work within the system that you've got. So both Celente and Schiff have theorized that when Trump took office, and a lot of the large businesses knew that regulations are going away, taxes are going to be lowered, and the economy, basically America's open for business again, the Federal Reserve took that as a sort of a cue that it's time to raise interest rates in order to basically artificially stymie the economy. And they've raised it 9 times in the last 2 years, and 0. They kept lowering it for Obama in order to sort of artificially create this bust and boom and bubble cycle. I don't know. I'm not an economist. This stuff is like way above my head. So I'm just kind of saying what other people have said and from what I remember. But it really does look like the people at the Federal Reserve, being the big government swamp creature establishment that you want to call them, are intentionally trying to sabotage the economy in order to get their status quo, business as usual politicians back in and sort of undo what happened in 2016. 2016 was a fluke, and it was a monkey wrench in the plan, so to speak.
Andy says, it sends false signals. High interest rates tell the market that too many people are borrowing money and not enough lending. So it has a bad time expanding. So it's a bad time to expand your business. Low interest rates tell the market that more people are looking to invest. Then there are less people looking to invest than are borrowing. So that's a good time to expand your business. By sending the false signals, you have a higher rate of bankruptcy. And yeah, that's true. And that's what's true. And this is what Austrian economists, and specifically Ron Paul in the 2008-2012 campaigns was harping, is that the Federal Reserve artificially changing interest rates sends bad signals to the market and causes highs and lows in business cycles. And it's a lot. I'm not going to get into all that right now, but needless to say, we do not want agencies artificially raising and lower interest rates. We want that to be a product of the market. We want the free market to determine what the proper interest rate is. Because interest rate is just the price on money. That's all. Think of it. It's a price. It's the price on what your money is. Like, oh, if you put this money into your bank account, this is what you're going to get back on it. The price. So artificially raising and lowering interest rates is just a way of price control.
Yeah.
It's no different than putting an artificial price control on, say, gasoline. What does the price control do? It leads to shortages and surpluses. If you have an artificially high price, then you're going to have a surplus because people aren't willing to spend that artificially high price to obtain the object. If it's an artificially low price, you're going to have shortages because people are willing to spend more than what your price is for the item, so they're just going to buy it up in bulk and hoard it. So all of a sudden, there's none left. You have to have a good balance. It's an equilibrium. Prices go up and they fall based on supply and demand. If there's a lot of demand for an item and the supply stays up, that's what you want. But the prices have to be able to adjust, and only the marketplace can determine what the right price is. Government can't do that. It's the same with interest rates. Right. So all this talk about, we need to raise the interest rates, we need to lower the interest rates, just stop. You don't know what the interest rate should be. None of us do. None of us are smart enough to actually know what the real interest rate is. The only way you can find that out is with free markets. So just get the Federal Reserve out of this whole thing entirely. And Donald Trump isn't really helping things because he seems to think that just printing a ton of money and keeping interest rates low forever is just a magic bullet to make the economy awesome forever. It's not. It might be what it is. What it might be, and I don't know if Donald Trump is smart enough to understand this, is that he just needs to keep the economy, good for until the next election. Once that happens, the economy can crash. He doesn't care because he's already president again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that him calling out the Federal Reserve has less to do with him thinking that low interest rates are going to perpetually keep the economy awesome forever, and more to do with what I was just talking about, how it appears that the Federal Reserve is intentionally trying to give the illusion that the economy is on the downswing in order to make him look bad. His personal hubris is basically informing him to be like, hey, Fed, what are you doing? Why are you raising these interest rates 9 or 10 times under my presidency in order to suppress GDP, in order to make the economy look like it's doing a lot worse than it is? You're trying to just make me look bad. Is that what you're up to? I'm hip to your game, sort of politicking.
I don't know, man. I mean, that could be it. That could be it. I don't know, man. I don't know if the Federal Reserve is intentionally trying to mess with Donald Trump in order to make him look bad and make him lose the next election. It could be. I mean,
that might just be how he views it. Like, he might be under the impression that they are intentionally trying to sabotage his presidency in order to make him lose the election and put a Hillary Clinton or a Joe Biden or whoever the Democrats decide to, or a Republican primary opponent. Who knows? But that might just be his impression of what the Fed is doing. Make Donald Trump look bad so he doesn't get in office in 2020.
Are you trying to tell me that the Federal Reserve wants Bill Weld to be president?
Well, Bill Weld is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations.
This is very interesting. We need to consider this possibility going forward. Bill Weld, a stooge for the Federal Reserve. More at 9. No, that can't possibly be, because not even the Federal Reserve doesn't think that they can make Bill Weld into a legitimate contender for the Republican nomination. They know that's not going to happen.
No, not with shameless DJT in office.
Yeah.
Kidding.
Yeah, Donald Trump would slap Bill Weld around, no problem. That's side note. That's why I was always, the thing about Bill Weld, he's not the ideal libertarian at all. But the real reason to oppose him is not strictly on ideological purity. Is that if say he got the nomination for the LP, and say he got into the debates, he would get slapped around like a rag doll by Donald Trump all day long. Bill Weld does not have a high energy bone in his body. He would die in a debate against Donald Trump. He would fare no better than Jeb Bush. He'd be asking people to clap for him by the end of that.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Bill Weld, I don't know. I was down in Orlando and during the 2016 convention, and he did not impress. He was, like you said, low energy. He basically rode Gary's coattails to the nomination, and then because the way that the Libertarian Party acts, and he rode Gary's coattails to the nomination, and then Gary kind of rode his coattails in all of the co-interviews that they did on like late night talk shows and whatnot, because he had to be the sort of elder statesman to Gary's wacky, more libertarian friendly persona or whatever. And
Gary's just a goofy dude, man. He's kind of like a Joe Biden that doesn't put his hands on people. He's just a goofy dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bill Weld he's Eeyore. He's Eeyore. He's just, hi everybody, I'm Bill Weld. I want to be your president. Please vote for me. Or if not, that's okay too. Oh, by the way, I'm here to vouch for Hillary Clinton. She's a great kid.
Yeah, that right there.
That's who he is.
That in addition to the things that I found out later about his personal connections to the Clintons and his CFR membership, those were the few things that really kind of. I mean, I still pulled the lever for the Johnson Weld ticket in 2016, but I did so kind of like holding my nose doing so because I like Gary. He's, I met him. He's a personable enough dude. I think that he would have had that sort of bipartisan reach across the aisle potential in 2016, but Bill Weld, he's got so many like weird little things going on in his past that I was just like, if something happened to Gary and this guy was in office, I don't know where we would be at. And that's just my tinfoil hattery, tingling my ears, but it's just no.
Carl says, I really hope Justin Amash runs, but I'm pretty used to being disappointed at this point. Yeah, that's all of us. I hope Justin Amash runs too. I would absolutely love. My dream ticket right now is Amash Sharp. That would be the dream ticket right now. That would be so awesome. I'll knock on every door in Nebraska for that ticket.
I would too in 2024. I think that the 2020 election right now is too partisan. It's Donald Trump or whoever gets the Democrat ticket. I don't think that third parties have any room to compete in 2020. That's just me being honest.
You might be right, but even if Amash runs, there's nothing saying he couldn't run again in 2024. I mean, it could be Gary Johnson Part 2, where he ran twice consecutively. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But on a Amash Sharp campaign, it would be absolutely fantastic.
An Amash Sharp ticket or a Sharp Amash ticket, whatever you wanted to do. I know we talked about this in the chat about who would be better at the top of the ticket, and I think both of them would be a phenomenal president. But either one of those, I think is something that the LP needs to seriously consider for the post-Trump world. Because right now things are way too polarized for a third party to break in, unless something happened that made Trump lose the fervor, the sort of diehard hold that he has on his base that makes them so vocal and so animated to get behind him. And right now, the Democrats don't really have anybody that animates the left the way that Trump animates the right. So if we could sort of get back to the sort of pre-Trump malaise that this country was in, where everybody was like, another or even before that, the pre-Obama malaise that we had towards politicians, especially presidential candidates. If we could get back to that pre-Obama malaise that we had, then I think that would go a long way to not only giving third parties a chance in any kind of an election, but also to healing this country. Because right now we're on a path towards we're in a cold civil war right now. We're on the path towards a hot civil war if things don't cool the fuck down.
Yeah, I really hope things calm down. But I mean, what do you mean the left doesn't have anyone to get behind? They have a Native American running for president. They can get behind that, right? That's racist. I don't know, man. The only way that happens, in my view, is if the economy crashes. I've said this before. If the economy crashes before the 2020 election, Trump loses. Now, does he lose enough for a third party to gain major traction? Maybe. But I'm not at the point of hoping for an economic downturn just so the Libertarian Party can gain some extra votes. Because no, I don't want that. Nobody should want that.
No. That's what I think is so crazy about what we see coming from the left these days is this desire to see this country do bad just to make Trump look bad. They have so much hatred for this one man and his administration that they want to basically crash the plane to spite the pilot. It blows my mind. Like, we had 8 years of Obama, and I did not like the guy, and I did not think his policies would go anywhere positive for this country, but I did not actively want him to fail. I knew that his policies would fail, but I did not want them to fail. If they succeeded, I would have been like, oh, well, that's a pleasant surprise. I'm glad that it happened. I'm doing better now because of it. But I did not say, oh, I hate that Obama so much that I personally want to be worse off in the future. That is insane. But that is unfortunately...
Yeah. Because Bill Maher did this. Bill Maher did this last year, where he goes, I want the economy to crash so that Donald Trump will look bad.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Serious? You want people to lose their jobs. You want people to be thrown out of their homes. You want this economy to lose billions and trillions of dollars just because you don't like, because Orange Man is bad? The Orange Man is bad, so you want people to lose their jobs and be hungry and be needy. Oh, yeah, that's real compassionate of you, Mr. Progressive. Well, here's what progressives will say in response to that. They're going to point to Rush Limbaugh back during the Obama administration, going, "I hope he fails." No. But what they forget about is what he was actually hoping, that Obama fails to implement his policies. That's what he actually said. Like, that's the same thing Democrats are hoping for right now. Like with this border wall, they're hoping he fails to get his border wall. Okay, that's fine. You're the opposition party. You're supposed to hope that the party in power fails to get their policies implemented. That's what an opposition party does. That's fine. But what you're not supposed to do is hope that the economy crashes just so that you can ride the wave of discontent back to the White House. That's what you're not supposed to do. That's what psychopaths do. All right? And I don't care how bad Orange Man is, you don't get to hope misery upon the country just so you can get back to the White House.
Yeah. And that's right there is just it encapsulates the sort of religious fervor that a lot of these progressives have towards government. There's a guy, I don't know how familiar you are with him. Do you know who Bill Whittle is?
Bill who?
Bill Whittle. No, Bill Whittle. No. All right, he's a conservative commentator. He's got a YouTube channel. I love his stuff. He does a 3-man panel. They post something about every day. It's a really great thing if you're conservative or more conservative leaning. And he's got a guy who's like an evangelical conservative, and he's got a guy who's more of a libertarian conservative, and he's kind of in the middle. I think his stuff is really good, but his commentary on the way that the progressives view the government and the way that conservatives and libertarians view the government is that progressives view the government in almost the same way that Mussolini viewed the government. There is everything within the state and nothing outside the state. The government to a lot of these people is it's a religion, it's a way of life, it's not a means to an end, it is the end. Political power is the end. And the way that conservatives and especially libertarians view the government is it's like a popularity contest for ugly people. It's something that we have to do. We don't want to do it, but we have to do it. And the sooner we get it over with, the sooner we rip that Band-Aid off, the better. So until we can kind of bridge that gap between the religiously zealous towards the powers and the efficacy of government, and those who just see government as a necessary evil, then the sooner we can get around to kind of healing that divide and getting back to business as usual.
Here's the thing about it. The government, the left has made progressivism a religion. It's a religion at this point. You know, you cannot question the tenets of it, or else you're a bigot, you're evil, you're filthy in every way, shape, or form. And I mean, the reason they hate Donald Trump is because he spits in the face of all that is woke culture. He slaps it around, he steps on it, he spits on it, and he walks away. You know, he is everything they hate. He's a straight white man womanizer, and he's proud of it. You know, he doesn't apologize for being that. He thinks you're dumb for thinking he should apologize for it. But it drives them absolutely up the wall. And Trevor asks, so what can libertarians actually expect from Trump that would be positive in the last years of his administration? What could we positively look forward to in 2020?
Well, for starters, I think that his desire to make peace around the world and to kind of draw back the militarism of the Bush and Obama administrations is a wonderful step forward. The ongoing peace talks in North Korea, that ends 65-year war. The desire to get troops of Syria and Iraq and Libya and Afghanistan and all of these other Stan countries that we've got troops in for God knows what reason. The desire to pare back our involvement militarily in Europe is something that has been a long time coming for the past 30 years. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1989. It's been 30 years since that was a threat. We should not be footing the bill for NATO the way that we are right now. So I think that his admonishment of our NATO allies is a wonderful thing, and the fact that they're stepping up their obligations and we're paring ours down is a wonderful first step towards us dissolving NATO as an entity. I think that is something that's been a long time coming. Because that's just entangling alliances, and that's what got us into the First World War. So the sooner we dissolve NATO, the better, in my opinion. Trump has the best record of any president in modern history of repealing regulations. I think his current tally is for every one new regulation that's come up, he's repealed 9. So that's always good for business. It's always good for the economy. And eventually that trickles down to being good for every individual American who has a job. See, what else? Can you think of anything, Nathan?
Well, see, last year I would have agreed with you about all this foreign policy stuff, but I'm not so sure anymore. The talks with North Korea fell through. They're not going anywhere anymore. North Korea is not going to give up their nukes. Well, that's not going to happen ever.
I would agree with you there, but I think that there's a reason for that. And the reason stems from the fact that Kim Jong-un is a dictator, and he is looking at the news and he's seeing this opposition party, a group in American politics that is actively and openly mocking and chastising and just doing everything they can to throw wrenches in the works of what Trump is trying to accomplish, and he sees that as a sign of weakness. Now, you have to look at things through the lens of somebody like Kim, who is somebody who has never in his entire life had to experience or see a political system that has that no, not that has, but that tolerates an opposition party. He is used to a political system where what he says goes, and anybody that comes against him gets put in front of an anti-aircraft gun and shredded. So the fact that he sees Democrats criticizing Trump for his, any policy, it doesn't have to be the North Korean policy. It can be any policy, domestic or foreign. He sees him being criticized, and the only recourse that Trump has is to say some nasty words on Twitter. He sees that as a sign of weakness. And so he's going to be like, oh, well, if Trump is going to let Democrats that he lives next to in Washington, D.C. shit talk him this bad, then what do I have to fear, right? So, of course, the talks are going to fall through. And I don't think the Democrats are doing that consciously. I just think that's a byproduct of the hyper-partisanship that we have in this country right now.
Yeah, but the thing about it, though, is Donald Trump seems to genuinely think that he can talk Kim Jong-un out of his nukes. That if he sweet talks him enough, if he pretends to like him enough, that somehow that's going to convince him to give up his nuclear weapons, which is really all the U.S. wants out of this. We just want them to get rid of the nukes. But that's never going to happen because he knows what happens to people who give up their weapons programs. What happened to Libya? What happened to Iraq? These countries had WMD programs, gave them up, and left them completely vulnerable to attack. And then Gaddafi gets sodomized to death. Kim Jong-un doesn't want to be sodomized to death. So he's never going to give up his nukes. No, so that fell through. That didn't go anywhere. Donald Trump's going to keep troops in Syria. He may bring a lot of them out, but he's still keeping troops there. So that's gonna no. He's not going to withdraw troops from Afghanistan. There's talk of military intervention with Venezuela. I don't know, man. Donald Trump has been a mixed bag for the last few months when it comes to this foreign policy stuff. Because yeah, I was very excited to hear that we were withdrawing from Syria. Turns out it's not a full withdrawal. Oh, we're going to withdraw from Afghanistan. Turns out that's not going to happen. Oh, we're going to make peace with North Korea. Okay, that's good. Oh, the talk fell through, as you would imagine. And now people are talking about interventionism in Venezuela on top of the expanded drone war that Trump has conducted. Bush started the drone war, Obama expanded it, and Trump expanded it even more. So in the foreign policy front, yeah, last year I would have agreed with you that this is something, a good development we're having, but I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like Trump is committed at all to being more non-interventionist. It seems like he may have some slight non-interventionist tendencies, but the longer he's in Washington, D.C., the less you see that.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you there, and I think that is just the product of the environment in which he finds himself. He's got all of these insiders that are telling him, no, you gotta do this way, this thing this way, and everything. And I'm not trying to go to bat for Trump. I really do think that the guy went in with the best of intentions for America. I think that he is a nationalist, like he said on that stage that day that they made a whole lot of political hay about. I think that he is 100% America first. America is the greatest country on planet Earth, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make us stay in that top slot. And I also think that he is either willingly or unwillingly has been surrounded with a bunch of people who are so convinced or so entrenched in the idea that of the intermeshing web of the modern world of with what Alex Jones types would call globalism, that they're doing everything that they can to make these intermeshing connections and trying to get things back to business as usual. Trump came into office on a wave of nationalist populism in order to kind of pare back the global interconnectivity that we have in the world and build up America even at the expense of the rest of the world. Whereas a lot of these people that are in Washington, they are the presidential advisors, they are the people in Congress, they're the think tanks and the lobbyists and everything. They are of the mind that America as an entity is a postal code. It's an economic zone. It's part of the world as a whole. And even if America has to suffer to bring these things together, then so be it. And unfortunately, I think that, as a proud American myself, I think that a lot of that thought process has weaseled its way into the Trump administration, and I think that he's kind of not been compromised, but it's starting to wear down his defenses, and I think that that maybe he's been conned into believing the long game theory, where it's okay, yeah, America has to suffer in the short term, but in the long term, America is going to come out on top. And I don't see this sort of America suffering for the long term gain of the. I don't know. I'm off on a tangent. Take it over. I'm drunk.
Man, it takes being a little bit drunk to talk about politics these days. And you know what? 30 years from now, when we're all running for president, people are going to look back at these episodes and use them to disqualify us anyway. So you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it, man.
30 years from now, dude, I'm eligible for president this year. What are you talking about?
Do it, man. Everybody else is running for president. Just hop right in.
Yeah,
I think
I will go down to Austin this year, and I will start a write-in campaign for Hobbs for president.
Do it. Do it. Just don't ask me to be your running mate, because I will not do that. All right. I think we've been talking for an hour. I think we'll stop right there. Anything else you want to say before we call it a night?
Let's see. I heard yesterday that Julian Assange might get kicked out of the Ecuadorian embassy. In fact, I heard it on the Alex Jones show, which I do. Full disclosure, I listen to Alex Jones. I heard it on his rebroadcast. I heard it about midnight last night. He might get kicked out of the Ecuadorian embassy, which would mean that he would be out on the streets in London, which would get him arrested by the British police and then extradited to the United States under whatever law he supposedly broke here. That hasn't happened yet, to the best of my knowledge, and you would think that something like that would be top billing for news, and it hasn't been, so make of that what you will.
Well, you know why it is. It's because Julian Assange has made both Republicans and Democrats look like absolute fools. So nobody likes him anymore, except libertarians, because we like it when those people look like fools.
Well, there's that, but Julian Assange right now and WikiLeaks is on pretty much any country of consequences shit list. So the fact that he would be arrested in Britain and then extradited to the United States to face trial for whatever, to me, I mean, he could be extradited to any of 6 countries. But the fact that he would be extradited to the United States kind of makes me, I don't know. There's a deep part of me that wants to think that this is a sort of a Trump administration head fake, that he's giving the Assange situation no mind. He hasn't issued a pardon for Assange in the 2 years, despite even Roger Stone has very, very, very vocally called for a pardon of Roger Stone, or of Julian Assange. And Roger Stone is one of Donald Trump's best friends going back 40 years. So the fact that Trump hasn't done that yet has it instills in me a kind of optimism that Trump is talking tough to the UK government in order to get Assange extradited to the United States, and then offer him a pardon once he's on U.S. soil and he's safe from any of the other extradition treaties. Because if Trump offered a pardon to Assange while he's still in the UK could still arrest him and then extradite him to any one of these other countries that he is under trial for. So that's my optimism, that's my hope, that sort of thing happens, because Trump owes Assange and WikiLeaks a great deal for his win in 2016. Even if Assange doesn't actively admit that Seth Rich was the source of the DNC leaks, he can still tacitly sort of, covertly say, allegedly Seth Rich is our DNC source. Because Seth Rich is dead, but WikiLeaks has a policy of not releasing the source of their leaked information. So that's my hope on that. Make of that what you will. The other thing is the California magazine ban. If you want to introduce that, we can talk about that a little bit.
Okay, well, just real quick. So California had a ban on high-capacity magazines, and this ban was struck down by a California judge, striking a wave of magazine purchases in the state. Apparently that goes away tonight, so RIP California. Back to being California again.
Right.
That's all I got on that.
Yeah, the so-called high-capacity magazine, which is standard capacity magazines. Standard capacity. Most modern firearms take magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition. It's a standard capacity magazine. But California had an arbitrary ban of anything that holds more than 10 rounds is verboten in the state. So a judge, Benitez, Roberto Benitez, struck down the 10-plus round magazine ban on constitutional grounds. And then the California government filed an appeal to reinstate the 10-round ban. So this same judge that struck the ban down issued a stay on his own ruling to temporarily reinstate the ban on the importation or manufacture of a 10-round or more than 10-round magazine in the state of California. So it's a little bit convoluted right now. They're appealing it to the Ninth Circuit, which is why Judge Benitez issued a stay on his own order. Now, the law in California stated not only was there a ban on the importation or manufacture of a 10-plus round magazine, but you had to turn in, export, or destroy magazines that were already in your possession. Now, that was the thing that caused this Roberto Benitez guy to issue the ruling that he did. And the stay on the ruling that he filed until the Ninth Circuit reviewed under ex parte, until they review the law, is that until the Ninth Circuit makes a judgment one way or the other, the 10-plus round magazine ban, you cannot import or manufacture 10-plus magazines in the state of California. But if you already have them, or if you ordered them online before 5 p.m. tonight, which was a couple hours ago, California time, if you already had them ordered before then, they are yours, and the state of California cannot coerce you into turning them in or destroying them or exporting them out of state. So
awesome.
Yeah. So hopefully anybody in California, I don't know how many of you are watching this right now, but hopefully you guys got your standard capacity magazine orders in before 5 p.m. tonight, and hopefully you hang on to them until the Ninth Circuit makes their ruling. And I'm not advocating for breaking the law or anything, but hopefully you lose all of your magazines in an unfortunate boating accident should the Ninth Circuit overturn Judge Benitez's ruling.
All right. Well, we'll end it right there. We're a little overdue for time. Remember, everybody, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and tune in next week for another episode of the Token and Hobbs Show. Good night, everybody.
Good night. God bless.